The storm raged over the city as Emily sat in her car, her pulse pounding in her ears, each drop of rain echoing the weight of suspicion. She had followed Michael tonight, unable to silence the growing ache in her chest. Her breath fogged the glass as she gripped the wheel, staring at the street where the truth would either break her or set her free. Michael stepped from his car, adjusting his jacket as if meeting someone important. Emily whispered, "Please, no," her voice trembling. Then Sarah appeared, her best friend, her ally, walking into the glow of a streetlight. Emily's heart shattered as their fingers intertwined. It wasn't a mistake, it wasn't imagination. It was betrayal, raw and undeniable, slicing through her like a knife she never saw coming. Emily sat in silence, her world spinning as betrayal settled into her bones. The rain became background noise to the deafening echo of broken trust. Oh, she thought of the promises Michael once whispered, words that now mocked her. Sarah's laughter used to be a comfort, but tonight it was poison. Emily said, "Why her? Why now?" The question carried no answer, only pain. She pressed her forehead against the cold window, wishing to wake from this nightmare, but every heartbeat reminded her it was real. Her sanctuary, her love, had been shattered in an instant. Emily's mind raced back to the nights when she believed Michael's late returns were from work. She had trusted him blindly, her loyalty unshaken. Now, each memory twisted into a blade. She recalled his touch, once gentle, now tainted with lies. She whispered, "I gave you everything." The words cracked in her throat. Her hands shook as she replayed Sarah's smile, her betrayal cutting deeper than Michael's. Friendship was sacred, yet it was now desecrated. Emily closed her eyes, drowning in disbelief, her chest heavy with sorrow. The rain softened, but Emily's pain only deepened. Her thoughts wandered to the years of sacrifice she had given, every moment shaped around Michael's happiness. She remembered Sarah as her confidant, the sister she never had. Now that bond was ash. Emily whispered, "I was nothing to you both." Her heart wavered between rage and despair, uncertain of which would consume her first. The warmth of old memories turned into cold shadows. She looked at her reflection in the mirror and barely recognized the broken woman staring back. Emily finally lifted her gaze, catching sight of Michael and Sarah disappearing down the street. She felt the urge to open the door to scream his name, but her voice was trapped. Instead, she sat frozen, her silence louder than any outburst. The world outside continued as if nothing had shattered. Emily whispered, "You chose her." The words fell like stones in her chest. She realized in that instant her life had changed forever. There was no returning to what once was, only the hollow silence of betrayal. Morning light crept through the curtains, but Emily felt no warmth. She moved through the house like a shadow, every corner reminding her of sacrifices made. The laughter of her children echoed in her mind, the life she built crumbling beneath her. She remembered working late nights, supporting Michael's dreams, giving every ounce of herself to keep their family whole. "I gave you all of me," Emily whispered into the silence, her voice breaking. In the kitchen, a framed photo of happier days mocked her pain. The smile she once wore was gone, replaced by a hollow stare. She wasn't just betrayed as a wife, but as a woman who believed in loyalty above all else. Emily sat at the dining table, the morning sun spilling across empty plates. She thought of the countless meals she prepared, each one filled with love and care. Michael's chair stood empty, a silent reminder of his absence. She whispered, "How long were you lying beside me while giving your heart elsewhere?" Her chest ached as memories collided, anniversaries, late-night talks, promises whispered under blankets. The love she nurtured now seemed like a cruel performance. She pressed her hand against her stomach, fighting the hollow feeling spreading within. This home once felt sacred, but now it felt like a theater of deceit. Her children's laughter drifted from another room, a bittersweet melody. Emily smiled faintly, but the weight of betrayal crushed her joy. She had been their anchor, holding the family together through storms, yet now she felt unmoored. She imagined explaining to them, But how could she? They adored their father, blind to his deception. She whispered, "How do I protect them from a truth that will shatter their world?" Her heart wrestled between shielding them and exposing the reality. She brushed a tear away, unwilling to let them see her broken. But every breath carried the ache of betrayal. Later that day, Emily met Claire, her longtime friend, at a quiet cafe. Claire's eyes searched her face, instantly sensing the storm beneath her fragile smile. "Something's wrong," Claire said softly. Emily tried to hold back, but the words spilled out. She told her of Michael, of Sarah, of the moment the truth burned into her eyes. Claire reached across the table, grasping her hand. "You didn't deserve this." Emily blinked hard, fighting back tears. It felt good to say it out loud, yet the wound only deepened. Sharing the pain made it real, and there was no turning back. That night, Emily sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the space Michael once filled. She felt the echo of his absence, louder than his presence had ever been. The silence was suffocating, yet her mind screamed with questions. "Why wasn't I enough?" she whispered. The memories of every embrace, every kiss, blurred into lies. Her heart beat heavy in her chest, torn between rage and longing. She realized this was the first night she truly felt alone in her marriage. The betrayal wasn't just a wound. It was a void swallowing the life she once knew. Emily sat in the living room, Michael's phone clutched in her trembling hands. The device, once harmless, now felt like a weapon against her heart. With each swipe, messages appeared, sweet words he never spoke to her. "I miss you already," read one. Another said, "I can't wait to see you tonight." Emily's breath caught, rage mixing with sorrow. She had given him loyalty, yet he had offered Sarah affection meant for his wife. Every line was another fracture, every word a blade. Emily whispered, "How could you?" The screen glowed, mocking her with proof of the love he had stolen. Her hands shook as the phone slipped from her grip, landing on the carpet with a soft thud. She pressed her palms against her temples, fighting the storm in her head. Every memory of Michael was being rewritten by these lies. The nights he came home late, the excuses about work, all covered by a curtain of betrayal. Emily gasped for air, her chest tight as though the walls were collapsing. "Everything was a lie," she muttered, her voice breaking. The silence of the house felt cruel, a witness to her unraveling. She no longer knew if she was living in truth or illusion. When Michael returned home, Emily forced a smile, her pain hidden beneath practiced silence. She watched him place his keys on the table, his routine unchanged, as though nothing was broken. He kissed her cheek, and she resisted the urge to recoil. "How was your day?" he asked casually. The question pierced her with cruelty. How could he act so normal while her heart was bleeding? Emily's eyes burned, but she swallowed the truth. In that moment, she realized the depth of his deception was not only in his actions, but in his ability to wear a mask so flawlessly. The next day, Emily confided in Claire once more. Her voice cracked as she described the texts, the lies, the emptiness consuming her. Claire's brow furrowed, her eyes sharp with anger. "You can't keep this inside," Claire said firmly. Emily shook her head, fear keeping her chained to silence. "What if it destroys everything?" Claire leaned closer, gripping her hand. "It's already destroyed. Now it's about saving yourself." Emily's tears fell freely, the weight too heavy to carry alone. For the first time, she felt the stirrings of strength, fragile but real. That night, Emily lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Doubt clawed at her, whispering questions she feared to answer. Was her entire marriage a lie? Did Michael ever love her? Or was she just a convenience? She thought of Sarah, of the betrayal wrapped in false smiles. Her chest heaved as she whispered, "Who am I to him?" The room felt foreign, her sanctuary turned prison. Every memory replayed, each one stained by deceit. Sleep evaded her, replaced by an endless loop of despair. She realized she was no longer clinging to love, but drowning in betrayal's shadow. Emily's phone buzzed late at night, jolting her from restless thoughts. She almost ignored it until she saw the name, her estranged mother. Hesitation gripped her as she answered. Her mother's voice cracked with age and regret. "Emily, there's something you need to know," she said. The words felt heavy, weighted with decades of silence. "Michael isn't the only one who lied. Your father, he isn't who you think he is." Emily's body froze, her mind spinning in chaos. Betrayal was no longer confined to her marriage. It ran deeper, embedded in her very bloodline. Emily pressed the phone tighter to her ear, her voice trembling. "What do you mean?" she asked. Her mother sighed, the sound broken and weary. "I never told you the truth. The man you called father, he wasn't your father at all. I kept the secret to protect you." Emily staggered to her feet, clutching the dresser for balance. Her entire life felt like a puzzle with missing pieces. Betrayal seeped into her from all directions. Her husband, her friend, her family. She whispered, "How could you keep this from me?" Her world tilted, truth and lies indistinguishable. Later that evening, Emily found an old box in the attic, dusty and untouched. Inside were letters, photographs, fragments of a past never revealed. One letter bore her mother's handwriting, "You deserve the truth someday." Tears blurred her vision as she read words that confirmed her lineage was a lie. She realized Michael's betrayal was only a piece of a much larger wound. Trust had been fractured long before she even recognized it. She pressed the letter to her chest, whispering, "All this time I lived inside a lie." Her entire identity began to unravel. The truth weighed heavier than she imagined. Emily sat in the attic, torn between rage and sorrow. Betrayed by her husband, betrayed by her friend, and now betrayed by the very roots of her family. She whispered into the silence, "Who am I?" The question echoed inside her like a hollow bell. Every bond she had relied on was tainted. Her trust, once abundant, had been weaponized against her. She pressed her face into her hands, sobbing as the walls around her seemed to close in. The past and present collided, leaving her identity shattered. When Michael finally walked into the house, Emily looked at him with new eyes. His betrayal was no longer isolated. It was part of a pattern of lies stretching through her life. She felt a calm she hadn't known before, the quiet before a storm. Michael set his jacket on the chair, oblivious. "What's wrong?" he asked. Emily studied him, her gaze piercing. "Everything," she whispered, her voice steady yet loaded with rage. He froze, sensing the shift. For the first time, Emily wasn't just broken. She was ready to confront. The lies had reached their limit. Emily stood in the living room as Michael entered, her pulse steady, though her heart thundered beneath her chest. For days she carried silence, but now the truth demanded release. She raised her eyes to him, steady and sharp. "How long?" she asked, her voice low. Michael froze, key still in his hand. "What do you mean?" he deflected, his tone smooth, but his eyes flickered with unease. Emily's body trembled, but her voice grew firm. "How long have you been lying to me? To us?" His silence was an answer in itself, each second stretching like an eternity. Michael dropped his keys on the table, his jaw tightening. "It's not what you think," he muttered. Emily's laugh was sharp, bitter. "Don't you dare insult me with more lies." Her voice cracked, but her eyes blazed with fury. He tried to reach for her arm, but she stepped back, recoiling from his touch. "You broke everything," she said, her words trembling with rage and grief. Michael's voice rose, defensive. "I made a mistake." Emily snapped, her voice shattering the air. "A mistake doesn't last for months. A mistake doesn't wear my best friend's smile." The silence that followed cut deeper than the words. The doorbell rang, slicing through the heavy silence. When Emily opened it, Sarah stood there, her face pale but defiant. "We need to talk," Sarah said, her voice calm but edged with guilt. Emily's heart clenched as she faced the woman who was once her confidant. "You chose him over me," Emily whispered, trembling with restrained fury. Sarah's lips parted, searching for words that would not come. Emily's voice steadied, cold and sharp. You were my sister in everything but blood, and you tore my life apart. The air between them crackled with betrayal, a bond turned poison. Inside, Michael's voice rose above the storm. I never meant for it to happen this way, he pleaded. Emily's fury erupted. You never meant for me to find out. That's the truth. Her words struck with precision. Sarah stepped forward, her expression conflicted. Emily, she began, but Emily cut her off. Don't you dare speak my name. Her voice carried both rage and grief, trembling but unyielding. Michael buried his face in his hands, muttering excuses. For Emily, their voices blurred into noise. All she heard was the echo of shattered vows and her own strength rising from the ruins. Emily stood tall, her chest heaving, but her eyes sharp with clarity. She faced Sarah and Michael, both silent now under the weight of their guilt. You thought you could take everything from me, she said quietly, her voice calm yet deadly. But you didn't know what I was capable of. For the first time, the fear shifted, not hers, but theirs. Michael's gaze faltered. Sarah's lips trembled. Emily turned, walking away, her footsteps steady despite the tremor in her chest. She realized the power wasn't in holding on to them, but in letting go. The storm had broken, and she was still standing. The house was silent, but Emily's footsteps echoed as she packed her belongings into a suitcase. Each folded shirt felt like closing a chapter, each zipped pocket a wound sealed with finality. She paused at the dresser, brushing her fingers across framed photos that once defined her life. Memories tugged at her heart, but she pushed forward. This isn't my home anymore, she whispered, the words heavy yet resolute. The suitcase clicked shut with a sound that felt like a door closing on the past. She was no longer bound by lies. Her journey now belonged only to her. Emily knelt beside her children's beds, brushing stray strands of hair from their faces. Their breaths were soft, steady, unaware of the storm that shattered her world. She whispered, I'll protect you, her voice breaking with quiet strength. She kissed their foreheads, leaving behind a promise that no betrayal could erase. Her tears fell silently, but she smiled faintly, determined not to let them see her broken. The innocence in their faces gave her strength to stand, even when her own foundation crumbled. They were her anchor now, her reason to fight for a life built on truth. In the quiet of the night, Emily placed her wedding ring on the kitchen counter. What? The small circle of gold once symbolized love, now nothing more than a cage. She stared at it for a long moment, her chest tightening. You don't own me anymore, she whispered, her voice steady. The ring sat cold under the dim light, a relic of promises betrayed. With trembling hands, she turned away, leaving it behind. It no longer defined her. For the first time in years, she felt the faint stir of freedom. Pain lingered, but choice had returned to her hands. Emily stood by the window, watching the sun sink beneath the horizon. The sky blazed with colors fierce and fleeting, like her grief, beautiful and painful at once. She pressed her hand to the glass, breathing deeply as the world outside kept moving. I'm still here, she whispered, her voice carrying both sorrow and defiance. The sunset didn't erase her pain, but it reminded her that endings could also hold beginnings. The betrayal was carved into her heart, but so was survival. She allowed herself to imagine tomorrow, not healed, not whole, but no longer silenced. Later, Emily met Claire once more. The cafe felt calmer this time. The chaos dulled into weariness. Claire reached for her hand, eyes full of quiet support. You're stronger than you know, Claire said. Emily nodded, though her heart still ached. I don't feel strong, she admitted softly. Claire smiled faintly. Strength isn't about how you feel, it's about surviving. Emily exhaled, her chest loosening slightly. For the first time, the weight felt lighter, shared. Betrayal had broken her, but it had not ended her. She still had allies, still had breath, and still had herself. The night was still as Emily sat alone in the living room, the silence pressing down like a weight. Her phone lay in her lap, the screen glowing faintly. She scrolled through contacts, her thumb hovering over a number she once dialed without hesitation. The one person she trusted most, yet tonight, the line between trust and betrayal blurred into nothing. She pressed call, her breath held. The phone rang once, twice, then to voicemail. "It's me," she whispered, her voice breaking. I needed someone." The silence that followed reminded her she was utterly, devastatingly alone. She ended the call and set the phone beside her, staring into the void. A notebook rested on the coffee table, untouched for years. Emily reached for it, her hands trembling. She opened to a blank page and held the pen with hesitation. Words spilled slowly, shaky but honest. "I thought love would save me," she wrote, her tears smudging the ink. Instead, it buried me. The act of writing felt like bleeding on paper, raw but necessary. Each sentence was a fragment of her broken heart, each word a step toward owning her story. As her pen scratched across the page, Emily's mind flooded with memories. Michael's laughter on their wedding day, Sarah's embrace after her children were born, the countless nights of shared secrets. Each memory, once golden, now corroded with betrayal. She pressed her pen harder, the words shaking under the weight of her grief. "I gave them everything," she whispered aloud. The images replayed, not as comfort but as wounds reopening. Her eyes closed, and she saw their faces, not of love, but of deception. Every memory became a cruel echo of lies. She dropped the pen and sat back, staring at the ceiling. The silence of the house was suffocating, broken only by the sound of her ragged breathing. She thought of how betrayal had carved her into someone she barely recognized. "I don't know who I am anymore," she whispered, her voice hollow. Yet even in the void, she felt a strange clarity. Everything was gone, yet she still breathed. The pain was unbearable, but it was hers. She had survived the storm, even if the aftermath was ruin. The silence now was her witness, her cruel companion. The dawn crept slowly into the room, pale light washing over Emily's exhausted face. She rose and walked to the window, pulling the curtains aside. The world outside carried on. Cars moved, people hurried, the sun climbed as though her pain didn't matter. She pressed her palm to the glass and whispered, "I was alone all along." Her reflection stared back, fragile yet unbroken. Tears slipped silently down her cheeks, but her eyes held a faint glimmer of resolve. Betrayal had hollowed her, but it had not destroyed her. She would carry the scars, but she would carry them standing.